Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here's your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning and welcome to another Sunday morning at For Faith in Our Hometown. It's always good to spend a little bit of Sunday morning with you. My guest this morning is going to be Stephanie Meek, who's the Executive Director of Love and Grace. We find in our area that there are sometimes some of the members of our community that need a little bit of assistance. They need a little bit of help to get over some hump in life. And that's one of the reasons why we have some of our crisis shelters here in the area. And we've featured many of them on our show. Well, Love and Grace is one of those crisis shelters. It's one of those opportunities for our community to reach out to people who just need a little bit of a bump to get them on to whatever needs to be next in their lives. And Love and Grace fulfills that need here in our community, especially for young women. So we're going to be talking about that in just a few moments. We're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute, so stick around and stay with us for another Sunday morning on Faith in Our Hometown.
The different bariatric surgical options here at Mercy Joplin includes laparoscopic room-wide gastric bypass, laparoscopic sleeve gastrectomy, and laparoscopic lap band placement. In addition, we also offer revisional laparoscopic surgeries for those patients that have had previous bariatric procedures but have had failures. The surgical procedure of choice will vary with different individuals, and so that's why our team will work with the patient on an individual basis to determine which procedure is the best fit for them. All three of the bariatric procedures that we offer here at Mercy Joplin have a long track record of proven safety and efficacy. The best procedure for the individual has to be a decision to be decided between the patient and the physician.
So again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning at Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning is Stephanie Meek. Stephanie is the Executive Director of Love and Grace. So Stephanie, first tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell us about Love and Grace. What do we need to know?
Well, I am the Executive Director there. I came up the ranks as Program Director and then became Executive Director about 2 years ago. We opened in February of 2014, and in that first year, we served 9 young women. Our focus is working with young women who may have aged out of foster care or are homeless and perhaps need some support. We work with young women that are aged 17 to 24.
Okay, so you got a very targeted age range, and certainly women. We're talking about young women here. Okay, so that certainly serves a niche. Why do you limit to just that audience, that target?
Well, when our board of directors opened Love and Grace, they had looked at our community and saw a need, mostly for young women that were aging out of the foster care system. They were quite concerned because we have, as you're probably aware, with I-44, a high incidence of human trafficking that can start in our area, and they felt that it was important to address that by giving safe shelter to the young women.
You know, and again, I think it's always important for our listeners and viewers to pay attention to the fact that, again, we really are trying to not duplicate services, you know, here in our area. You know, if somebody else is doing something, the rest of us says, okay, well then let us figure out a different way to help in the community. And this is one of those that was an outgrowth of some of those things. And so again, we've done shows on human trafficking and some of those things, just trying to heighten everyone's awareness, because so many times these things happen in our community and nobody knows anything about them.
Well, homelessness with youth is probably a new focus within the study of homelessness. The Voices of Youth count that occurred in 2014 estimated that 1 in 10 youth aged 18 to 24 will be homeless. And most of them, I think they said half of that number would be the first time that they would be experiencing homelessness. A lot of times I say that this youth homelessness are the hidden homeless, because they couch hop. They'll go from friend to friend to friend, and we often don't know that they're homeless.
Right. Because, and again, nobody reports it, nobody does anything for those folks. They just kind of like melt away from, their families or whatever, and then struggle for so long. And this is one of those ways of intervening in a way that can help them to make the permanent adjustments, so whether they're not going to be, couch surfing for the rest of their days, but if we figure out how to get them trained and get them employed and get them with a solid, grounding under them, then they're not going to be doing that the rest of their days. They'll be having to actually do a chance. So again, as we sometimes say in the, in the helping profession, this is a hand up, not a hand out.
Not a handout. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for a lot of our, I'm just going to be real honest, it's important for a lot of our donor bases, because our donor bases here in our area, our viewership and our community here is kind of like, we want everybody to fight for themselves. We want everybody to work for themselves. We want some of that, rather than just saying, here, let's just, use all of our resources and just throw them all, out just indiscriminately.
Well, I think one of the things that we at Love and Grace looked at, especially when I came in as program director, is looking at the barriers to success for youth. And they're a little bit different than what you would see in the adult population. First off, of course, is safe housing as a barrier, and we meet that, of course, by offering a very nice dorm-like room to 8 different girls at a time. Each room is furnished much like you would see in a dorm setting. Next, we look at nutrition. Often the girls come to us, they're tired and they haven't eaten well. So we look at what we might need to do to help them gain nutrition and look at nutritional education. They often don't have the skills to take care of themselves. Then we look at health and mental health needs that they might need. That again becomes a barrier to their success. We have done the figures, and 91% of the girls that have come through our home have had a mental health diagnosis.
Okay.
57% of the girls that have come through have been special ed students.
Well, and again, this is one of my drums that I bang all the time, is that, and again, this is interesting this morning how some of these conversations all intersect, but we're probably not doing enough for the mental health of our community. And I'm going to pick on the state of Missouri a little bit here because, well, I think it's my job, but I think we need to do a little bit more in terms of advocating for mental health, because I think that's part of the reason why we wind up with some of these folks who are homeless and who do need shelter, because we're not fixing some of the problem, we're just treating all of the symptoms.
Right. Right.
And so you guys are set up
we
to
are
help
helping,
try to do some of that.
And that's my background. I was a special educator, then counselor in the schools, then I became a crisis counselor during the tornadoes. So mental health and mental health services are very important to me personally, to make sure that we are meeting that need for the girls. Next, of course, transportation. If you don't have transportation, it's difficult to get to those appointments. It's difficult to find yourself at the DMV to get your identification and have everything that you need.
Difficult to get to a job.
Yes, and often we have had girls have to make 3 trips to the DMV to get those things taken care of. So transportation we provide. You might see our van going around town. We also focus on education. We ask that the girls, if they have not finished their high school, that they either look at and investigate getting back in school, or to finish their GED. If they have finished, we do try and talk to them about continuing their education either with technical school or college. We'll help them with that. So we also look at any kind of life skills training that they may need. Technology often becomes a barrier to success.
Especially in this day and age.
Yes, just having a computer to email or to apply for a job, to have a phone number that they can be contacted. We also look at the need of community support. Oftentimes these young women come to us and they don't have a lot of support, so the community coming into our facility and giving that love and care to the girls is very important.
Well, love and care and mentoring are so much a
Yes.
part of what so many of our, what I would consider our social service agencies do in the area. It's, and especially for young adults, that sometimes can be something that is a little, it gets a little shorter the older you get. I find that folks, will sometimes, no problem taking care of a kid in crisis, but sometimes it gets a little harder, when you've got a 20-year-old in
Yes.
crisis.
Yes.
And, to find that same kind of support because, they're not as little, they're not as cute, but at the same time, they can be almost, even though they've got some resiliency, they've got some skills, they don't quite have always what they need in order to make it all work and put it all together.
It's not an easy age.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Sure wasn't for me anyway,
yeah.
I'm just saying. But,
But we also look at making sure that they are learning financial literacy. We do a program with them on financial literacy. And then as they come to us and they're getting past the crisis mode, we start looking at healthy recreational opportunities and teaching them what a good life can be, because often they've been as the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. They are in that crisis mode and have lived in that crisis mode for quite some time. So looking at those types of things are new.
So say a little bit about that, because sometimes it might sound a little confusing to everybody. So what would you consider, like healthy recreation? So go ahead. Yeah.
We have a Y membership. The girls go up and use the Y facilities. We often they will go on the walking trails. We have taken them to Arkansas to the Amazium. Oftentimes they have never been to anything like that before. We avail ourselves of Spiva Art Center here in town, and we've had a request. The girls want to go to Crystal Bridges, so we probably will look at taking them down there in the next few weeks.
Concerts, in terms
Concerts,
of,
yes.
And again, using the university, Pro Musica, all those things are, just again, give everybody some healthy options. In terms of that are, rather than
expand their worldview a little bit is what we're looking at.
Yep, exactly.
So, and then the last thing that we look at, it's really the first thing, is their spiritual growth. We want our young women to look at their spirituality and expand in that area.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and again, I always chuckle. I mean, I always do. I think at the university we talk about every model of wellness there is.
Yes.
Doesn't matter which way we do it. No matter what model of wellness you look at, everybody's got spirituality as a part of that. And again, many of us do that within the context of a religion. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're meeting all of those needs to try to make sure that they're doing that in a way that is healthy, doing that in a way that meets their particular needs. And I know you're sensitive to whatever those happen to be for whatever your population happens to be at a given point in time. Again, my guest this morning is Stephanie Meek, who's the Executive Director of Love and Grace, which is one of our crisis shelters here in the area that targets the population of young women 17 to 25. And we've just been talking about some of the ways that we attend to that whole person that winds up in a program or at a place like Love and Grace. So we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about typically what happens at Love and Grace. This is Faith in Our Hometown. Stick around. We'll be right back after a real quick break, okay?
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So thanks for sticking with us here on Faith in Our Hometown. Again, my guest, Stephanie Meek, the Executive Director of Love and Grace. So Stephanie, we've heard a little bit about the program. We've heard a little bit about what you guys do. What's a typical day like at Love and Grace? I mean, and how many people do you have right now? Who you kind of give us some, obviously not using any names, but give us some ideas of what are your current residents kind of working with?
Well, we have capacity for us is 8 young women. We have our program director and a case manager that work during the day. to make sure that we are getting girls to appointments. And you can imagine having 8 young women, it can be kind of hectic. So we
Sure.
have what I call Grand Central Station outside my office with calendars and girls' schedules written down so that we make sure we're getting them to all their appointments. And we are looking at each girl individually. Our program director, as soon as we have a young lady, we had one young lady move in today, so she will be meeting with her in the next couple of days to do and develop what we call an exit plan. I akin that very much like an individualized educational plan in the special
Sure.
education program, where we are looking at each girl individually and what they might need for us to help them to be able to get out on their own eventually.
Sure. And what's your, I mean, you know, so obviously this is not one of those things where people come and stay forever. So they're there about what?
Our average is about 8 to 10 months. Some are much less time than that. Some girls will come in one night and that's enough, and they decide that's not for them. We have had one young lady that stayed with us 3 years so that she could get finished with high school and go on with her life after that.
Okay. So in other words, you guys are flexible in terms of
We
that.
are.
And you endure that. Good.
We are.
So you're not tied into any specific time
No.
frame.
As
Yeah.
long as the girls are working on their program and they are showing some success and we are meeting the need that they have and they are willing to work within the confines of our program, then they can
good.
stay with us.
Well, and again, I think that's so important, especially with many of our crisis situations around the area. We've got many programs that are exactly that way. It's just like, okay, we've got to, you know, as long as they will take part in the program and work toward progress and to do what they're needing to do, that's really what most of the programs try to do, is just to say, okay, as long as you're making your progress and doing your thing, we're going to continue to help you here and help you to figure out. Because when we send them out, when we send them out the door, we want them to be able to be
We
in a
want them to
strong
be
enough position.
successful.
Right. They want a strong
Yeah.
enough position to be successful. So, what are some of your favorite stories about, you know, as you worked with through the years? Because I know your numbers have risen through the years. You
Right.
said that first year you had 8.
We had 9 girls
Or
that
9 the first year. Okay.
And then last year we served 26. Today our 66th young girl came in the door.
And again, is that capacity? Is that you guys are better equipped to handle a larger number? Is the problem growing, or what's happening?
I
What do
think
you
that's awareness of the fact that we exist. We
Okay.
have had referrals from many different places. The school districts, at one time we had 5 different school districts in our building. And we were being picked up, you know, Neosho, Carl Junction, Webb City, Carthage, and Joplin. So, you know, it just kind of is this, I think it comes in waves. We tend to have girls leave in the spring. I think they look at, oh, summer's here, I don't want the confines of a program, I don't want to be under the rules of the situation, and then we tend to fill up in the winter. So I think the group of girls that we have right now will probably stay with us for a while.
Well, there you go. And again, that's kind of who you want, because you want the ones that you really believe that you're going to be able to make a difference for. So again, favorite stories. What do you tell me some of the success stories?
Well, in this business, some things are just success for that moment.
Okay.
I think one of the best stories, we were able to see a young woman who came to us homeless. She had been found walking up and down the streets of Joplin. After she had been with us for a little bit, we got her medical needs taken care of. We discovered she was pregnant. We were able to walk through her pregnancy with her, and we had a wonderful adoption story come out of that.
Yeah, good. Now I know that you're not set up to handle kids, so I mean,
Yeah.
if you know, in a situation like that, if she had not given up for adoption, you'd have probably had to move her on to a different facility,
Right.
or help some other way.
And we have done that before. We help them to attain housing and look for housing. And the other young woman that we worked with was able to move into her own independent housing about a month before delivery.
Wonderful. Yeah. So good. So if somebody wanted to help Love and Grace, how would they go about that? You know?
Well, I think
what
the best,
opportunities do you have? I'm just saying, you know, because some folks are, I mean, we never know who's watching the program. We never know when somebody, you know, is going to get kind of tapped on the shoulder to say, this is something, you know, that I could do this. Yeah. So talk a little bit about how they might help.
One of the things that we are looking for right now, we have a garden. We would love to have some master gardeners come in and work with the young women. We also have some women's groups from some local churches who come in and do craft nights with the girls or teach them to cook and do some Bible study with them. It just depends on where you feel your gifts lie, and then we try to plug your gifts into what we need and what we see as something that would be beneficial to the girls.
Okay, so let's put up some contact information here for you. Okay. So if anybody would want to contact Stephanie or somebody at Love and Grace, the phone number would be 417-540-8640. Again, 417-540-8640. And you can also be found on the web at
www.lovin-grace.org.
Okay, and also on Facebook at Lovin'
Grace.
Without the G. Okay, without the G. Love and Grace. Yeah,
yes.
the G becomes, the G is that like little hinge point. It's the G at the end of loving and the beginning of grace. Yeah. So there you go. So it's good. Yeah. And so any of those ways would be ways that anybody could get in touch with your organization and perhaps help to do some of those things. Any big dreams for into the future? What are you looking to do? Executive directors always dream, so I figure, you know, why not? Let's toss out the dreams and see what we want to do.
Well, we started that dream this last year by developing our endowment fund. I would love to see that supported and continued to where we are financially supported in the next many years past me.
Well, you know, and that's something that sometimes donors some donors will only give to endowments.
Yeah.
They won't give to operations. So that's not a bad deal. So they know that you've got one set up. That's a good thing.
We do. That is through the Community Foundation of the Ozarks. We're blessed that we were able to establish that fund this last year. I would love to see us grow to be able to take more girls. Sometimes I have a waiting list and I have to turn young women away because we're full.
You just can't do anything more.
And I can't take any more. Yeah. That's always heart wrenching to be able to, or to have to say no. So I'd love to see us grow in some way. We've talked about some of those things that, you know, or some ways that we could grow. But right now we have a capacity of 8.
That's all you can handle in terms of just who you can physically house. Yeah. And your overhead is, you know, in terms of staff, is relatively low from the way it sounds.
Well, actually, that is the highest cost.
Well, it always is, but I'm just saying, but it's not a lot.
Because we are case management based and we are 24/7 staff. We also have dual staffing in the evening and daytime hours so that you know, we can go 8 different ways at once as needed. It becomes a scheduling nightmare, I think, sometimes. But our staff is our largest cost.
Well, and I think that's true with just most organizations. I mean, you know, it's just like you can't. I mean, it's your biggest resource and also your biggest, you know, your biggest expense.
And we're blessed with our staff. All of them have a wonderful heart toward the helping professions, and we have social workers, teachers, psychology, and
well, you know, it's hard work.
Ministry.
It's hard work growing people up. You know, and I always say that. I mean, you know, and again, I work with college students all the time. So, and it's just hard work growing people up. I mean, from the time they're little until they get bigger, and it's not always easy, and it does require sometimes a deft touch, and sometimes it requires the village. You know,
it definitely takes a village to raise these girls.
Yeah. And again, a very vulnerable population, one that probably would be very poor, you know, even more poorly served in some ways if you guys were not in existence at Love and Grace. So, like I say, you've had a 4-year run, and we're going to try to keep that run going a little bit longer.
Yeah, we'd love that.
Yeah. So, in terms of, you have 66 girls so far this year, and
in the 4 years.
And the 4 years.
Yes.
Okay. So that. Oh, I said that was the corporate number. That was the whole thing together.
Yes.
So 66 girls. Well, again, on behalf of those 66 girls, I would say, thank you. In terms of making a difference in the lives of some of the young women in our area. We are talking with Stephanie Grace, who's the executive director of Love and Grace. We are talking about the importance of running sometimes emergency shelters, which we've got to do. And this is one of the ones that exists for young women, ages 17 to 24, which is a very vulnerable, very important population. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Don't go away.
The SANE program, or Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner program, is a program established to provide a coordinated, specialized care to patients or women or men who've been the victim of sexual assault.
The SANE program is really designed to be a collaborative community response to sexual assault.
It's really important to make sure that it's not just the report or the forensic, but they get all of the testing that might be needed for their health.
It's also important to know that you don't need to know if you want to press charges or not. We don't get law enforcement involved unless you request it.
I just want to express to the victim that it is never your fault. You always have the right to say no, and that it's your body. So if you say yes one time, it doesn't mean every time.
I think it's important that sexual assault victims remember they've been victims of a crime, and crime victims do not pay for those services.
Well, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning here at Faith in Our Hometown. Again, one of the things that I think that we do as people of faith, and in Love and Grace, who we've been talking to this morning, is another wonderful example of this. But this is an idea that kind of grew out of members of a church that decided we had to do something for a vulnerable population. And so what they did is they put their heads together and said, okay, how are we going to take care of young women who might otherwise be falling through the cracks, especially those that are leaving foster care, who might otherwise get into some other kind of trouble, who might unfortunately fall into the hands of human traffickers, who might have all kinds of other problems. How do we give them enough support in their moment of crisis to help them to move forward in a much more functional, much more healthy way here in our community? And that is what Love and Grace does. It takes care of the whole woman. It takes care of trying to make sure that they are taken care of and help to grow up in good ways in all those different areas of life and faith and health. So, Love and Grace, what another great example here in our community of living out faith in our hometown. Join us next week.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.